Welcome to the Inforonics SupportCast, bringing you insight and tips from the world of customer, technical, and infrastructure support. Inforonics SupportCast starts now.
Welcome to Inforonics SupportCast Weekly. I'm Matt Hooper.
And I'm Jeff Roberts.
Thanks for joining me today, Jeff.
My pleasure, Matt.
Last week I was talking with Ted about all the different metrics we collect across the organization. He was talking about network, hardware, operating systems, applications, end users, SLAs, and all this stuff came up, and I started getting a headache. And I started realizing that this really drives action within our organization, but it's very difficult for us to know which actions to take unless we understand exactly how this relates to the customer's needs and really driving it from a client perspective.
Right.
So I wanted to talk about dynamic SLAs. And dynamic SLAs, in my mind, are SLAs that aren't just a static piece of paper that says you will keep systems up 99.9% of the time, or you will respond within 4 hours to an incident, or you will have resolution within a 24-hour period. Those are all great to have on a piece of paper, but the reality is they very frequently do not go to what the client's looking for. What the client really needs is services at a point in time that are very specific to them. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're greater, sometimes they're less. Mm-hmm. And us to scale up or have the right resources and capabilities, we need to kind of understand what that is.
Yeah, the uptime availability I think is an old paradigm. I hope it's something that's going to go the way of the horse and buggy. But I mean, a lot of people relied on it for a while when there was a data center centric world.
Right.
Everybody was fighting over how many nines you could have in it. Like that was the only thing that people cared about. Sure, it's important if you're making money off your website that your website is up, but there's a lot of other indicators of success that need to be captured and measured and reported on, and our clients should either know what those are or help us understand them, or we should push them to make them help us understand their business better, so that we can show them what the critical success factors are, so that we can help them identify the KPIs that we want to measure to see if we're actually meeting those success factors.
Right. When you talk about a website, some of our clients are retailers, so there is probably that period, that sales are the highest. They want more availability, or as much availability as we can give them. They want rapid response to anything that happens. They want more transparency into what changes we're going to be putting into the environment. Right?
99.999, whatever it is, doesn't matter if you're taking it by the month or by the year or whatever it is. I mean, we have a customer who has a large e-commerce site, and they came to us, and when we asked them about SLAs, they said between Thanksgiving and Groundhog Day, the site cannot go down and it cannot slow down.
Yeah.
That's where they make their money, that we have to prepare for that being up and available 100% during that period. And then we take some extra time to do things that we need to do during the off months for maintenance and for enhancements and for feature additions and that sort of stuff. But that's what you have to understand. You can't have the outages during that period and then report back that over the course of the reporting period we hit our numbers when they were down during very expensive times for them.
Right. But I know a challenge for a lot of our clients when they come to us is they don't always know what the SLA should be. So they say, give us your standard SLA.
Well, that's a real problem. I think there are executives that like to negotiate, and there are executives that like to win negotiations. And there's an old school myth that whoever says a number first is at a disadvantage somehow. So they come in and they say, I want an SLA. And we say, fine. What SLAs does your business need? What numbers do we need to meet, and why? Help us understand that. Well, no. Tell me what your SLA is. Tell me what you're offering. Hoping that I'll say something that then they can negotiate up or down so that they can win.
Right.
Well, that's not winning. That's you can walk away from the table thinking you've won, but you've got a number that doesn't mean anything to your business.
Yeah,
so,
that's a good point.
I don't want to. We don't want to win that way. What we want to do is have a discussion. We want to have an agreement with the client about what his business needs and how we can best measure and report it.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. We throw this word SLA out a lot, and it stands for Service Level Agreement.
Yeah.
Very frequently, we drop the agreement
not
point.
win.
Yeah. And then we talk about service level management, and what people mean by that is service level monitoring. But the reality is the monitoring needs to be in place so that you can effectively manage the capabilities and resources that you have to throw them at a situation. For instance, on a call center service level agreement, we need to understand not only how many people we have to answer the phone, but then we have to understand their capabilities. If we're going to answer 16 calls in a minute, well, we could throw 4 people at it, but those 4 people would have to take a call within 15 seconds each to mathematically work. So there's some algorithms we have to put in place. We have to really understand not only what the client's looking for, but our own internal resources and capabilities.
Right, and if the average handle time for that client's queue is 16 seconds, then you've lost.
Right.
Because they're not going to get off the phone in time.
That's right.
And God forbid the marketing department put a new feature out yesterday and forgot to tell support about it, and half of their client base is calling and saying, "What's this new feature?" And we haven't been trained on it. So now we've got
blaming marketing, those stinking marketing guys.
That's right. Well, they'll do it, and you got to learn to live with it. But you also have to understand that when that happens, your call volume is going to spike, and your average handle time is going to go up because it's a new issue. It
Right.
takes longer to solve.
Right.
So if we know ahead of time, and we've had a discussion, and we agree with marketing and our clients, we know that stuff. We can plan for that. We can
Right.
put extra people in the seats because we can use our metrics to figure out how many more people we need in those seats.
So you bring up another great point. When we look at SLAs, they're not only dynamic in nature and how they need to respond based on maybe the time of year, time of day, certain needs that they have, how we'll respond to them. So they need to be flexible in that regard. They also need to be flexible in their phase and in their own life cycle. Maybe we start off with more broader SLAs until we truly understand what our ability is to respond to that.
Well, right, and you say dynamic, which means in my world, this SLA can change based on changing conditions.
Yeah.
It's not a golf match that is won or lost in the parking lot when you figure out who's going to have so many strokes, and then you go play the match and you can't change that.
Right.
But you got to be able to change it. Things change all the time around here. And our clients call up and say we're changing the way we do business. We're rolling out a new feature. We're adding some automation, or we're putting something in that's actually more labor intensive for a while until we can automate. It's going to drive up your handle time. That's going to impact our SLA. Maybe we say we loosen it up for 3 months while we get some more training, or we get some more documentation, or we have people like Scott Taylor, who people have seen on these SupportCasts, do some automation that will speed some things up, will take some things off the board that don't have to be looked at by humans. Scottomation.
We love it.
Our clients love it.
Yeah.
Instead of handling one issue at a time and marking it in a timesheet or two, you can bulk things together. You can get 10 things that are short duration pieces of work, do all 10 of them, and then just put one little piece of time in for it instead of having to round up on every little issue. Those roundups, you remember Office Space where they were taking a little fraction of a cent off everything and putting it in the bank. Well, when you're manually timekeeping, those little pieces that you round up all add up to money out of the client's pocket.
Absolutely.
We want to shrink that. We want to charge exactly what we're worth, but no more than the client should be paying us.
So systems are a key piece of our service level management. If we're not monitoring at a base SLA, understanding all the different nuances with each of our clients, we're not going to be able to react effectively. We have to be measuring what our reaction time is, what our response times are, the state of our systems or of the call queues or things like that. So we're depending on a lot of these things coming together to build some dynamics to the way that we can manage it. Systems are key. We have to have those. So talk to the audience a little bit about creating and establishing service level agreements. Like we said, we need to know our capabilities and resources so that we can come to the negotiation table and have that dialogue, have that agreement. What should the audience be thinking about when they come to the negotiation table? Not thinking about winning or trying to get the biggest bang for their buck.
Yeah.
Then what?
Well, that's the biggest thing is we're not the enemy. If you're going into a deal with an outsourced vendor, thinking that it's going to be a battle all the time, then where are we going how are we going to help each other succeed?
Right.
So what we want to know is, tell us about your business. Tell us and tell us the bad stuff too. I mean, we're good at what we do. We've been in the IT business a long time. We know there's a lot of companies out there that have the same maturity problems that we've had when we were a younger company. Don't hide it from us, we've heard it before. It's not a problem.
Right.
We know how to get over it. We know how to help you. We know how to fix it, and we know how to have some patience if you're going to fix it. But I mean, tell us that that you would really like to get some business metrics that you haven't been able to get before. I just had a client recently that said, I haven't ever been able to correlate the time spent on our support tickets with a issue category or a serial number, which is identified with a client. So I put in a request to have that added to the KPIs for that customer, and then we automated the report. I send out 2 pieces of spreadsheet. They merge it. It comes back. I send it to the customer. He sends me back an email and says, you can't believe how valuable this is. In 5 minutes, I've just learned that 20% of my support budget is being spent on 2% of my customers.
Yeah.
And now I know how to manage those 2% of those customers, because I know who they are.
Right.
I know they're taking up all this time and space, and maybe all I need to do is give them a little education.
Yeah.
And I can cut that support
Increase the
cost.
training for them, and that will reduce the support costs.
But he had never looked at those metrics before,
Yeah.
because he hadn't shared with me what his problem was. What he needed to talk to his clients about was, yes, I gave you support on this product, but you're really using more of it than is commercially reasonable for me to support.
Yeah.
So I either have to help you get better at using the product, or I have to figure out how I can charge you some more for support.
That's fantastic. What that says to me is that in IT or any kind of support role, whether it's an outsourcer like ourselves or an internal IT organization, you have to look at the metrics as a means to an end and understand what the client's objectives are. If we don't have that dialogue, if we don't help them to appreciate ultimately how we're reducing costs or reducing complexity or increasing awareness or increasing stability, we're not partnering with them effectively. And so we've really got to have a dialogue about what are the metrics we're collecting, what's the service level that's supposed to be in place, is it effective today, where does it need to be in the future, and really use those metrics to guide us. It shouldn't be this hard and fast boundary that we are living within, but it's a way to measure ourselves to be optimized, to be working cohesively, because it is an aspect of expectation setting, right? If they expect it within 4 hours, we want to be delivering to that 4 hours, but at the end of the day, we have to ask, is 4 hours the right number?
Yep.
Is 4 hours going to work? Is it 4 hours good today, but maybe not in December? Those are good questions for us to be having.
Yep. And what's more important, customer service or the budget? I mean, everyone says they're both important. We want the best customer service, and we want the lowest monthly fee. But better customer service costs more money. If you're going to allow your customers to drive 5, 6, 7 touches for every support event, and each one of those touches is costing you 6 minutes of support time, then those are going to add up.
Right.
And sooner or later, your CFO is going to say, "This support costs are they're out of control. Go rein them in." Yeah. Well, you rein them in, you take the customer experience down a notch, because now you're looking to get people off the phone early. You're looking to cut 2 or 3 touches out of each of those support events to get the minutes down. So first of all, you have to decide what's important. 99% customer satisfaction is expensive.
Yeah.
Even groups. I mean, we're outsourcer with a shared model. I can get 95, 96 for most of my customers. If you want 97, 98, you're going to probably need to have a dedicated, extremely modern, high-tech call center of your own, and just focus on one product and have your own quality programs and your own metrics just for supporting your own products.
That's a very expensive SLA.
It is, and we keep it affordable here by having essentially one phone response SLA across the board, because we manage the entire group. There's 50 agents in there. We manage them all to a certain percentage of calls answered in a certain amount of time, and a better SLA than that costs more money. So you have to decide if your customer experience is worth the money.
That's fantastic. Well, Jeff, I appreciate you being on. It's been a great episode. Helps us really keep in perspective the SLAs are there for the customer.
Anytime.
Great. Well, next week we're going to get into dashboard management. We're going to take a look at how you can utilize more visual operations to make better decisions on how you can satisfy customer needs. Tune again next week. We appreciate you being with us at Inforonics SupportCast Weekly. I'm Matt Hooper.
And I'm Jeff Roberts.